It's day 60 of my 100-day project. Time for a little look at what I've done so far. So I've done some weaving. My project is a weaving project. I've had 2 different warps on my loom so far. This one was the first one. It was a 36 end per inch cotton warp, and that took me up to maybe day 32, 33, I can't remember quite. Then I've taken it off, and since then, on and off, I have been embroidering on there, circles, as you can see. So that's still there, and I pick that up whenever I fancy doing a bit of embroidery. The next warp was a wool warp, much coarser, 20 ends per inch this one, so it's a much coarser fabric. It's British wool, and for the most part I've used the same wool in the weft as I have in the warp, sometimes different colours. So we started off, this is a tutu twill, did a little bit of inlay, F for Freddie, that's my grandson's name, played with some stripes, adding in, it's still the same wool yarn in the weft as in the warp. I do often say warp when I mean weft and vice versa, so I might have to put some corrections on the screen. And I added in a very fine purple thread, just a few little subtle stripes, then reversing. And then because I do like symmetry, I repeated, so it comes back to there. Then I was on a different project. I'm making some friends a crochet blanket, and I was sewing in my end, so I had lots of little bits that I got snipped off. So I thought I would lay these in and weave them into the pattern and cut off their ends. That's quite sweet, I quite like that. Then I carried on weaving for a bit. Then I decided I wanted to repeat this, but in a little more, I wanted to make a square. So I decided I changed the weaving structure. I switched to a hopsack weave, which makes it a lot easier to make a square, make the edges straight. And I do like a hopsack weave. This one got a lot of love on Instagram. Then I tried to do a circle. That was a bit pathetic. Yeah, I should perhaps have drawn it on and been a bit more careful. Then cross-stitch directly on the loom, using the loom as a great big frame. That was quite fun. This one was the Wordle. I don't think it was that day, but it was a Wordle. I was very pleased with it on several counts. One is that 3 counts. One is that I think it's come out and it looks nice. Secondly was that I achieved the Wordle in 3 that day. And thirdly was that the colours came out in a symmetrical pattern. So carried on weaving, then decided just to play with a little bit of stripiness. Carried on with those. Then I wanted to play back on, I think probably day 15, on this warp here. See if I can find it quickly. I coloured the warp with Inktense pencils. Yeah, there it is. And sprayed that with water. And since I've taken it off the loom, and I might have done it on the loom, can't remember. Yes, I did it on the loom. I added a little definition by stitching a circle as well. I wanted to see how that would work on this wool warp. Apart from anything else, the surface of the wool is very, very different. I wanted to see how it would behave, whether it would behave much differently. And I don't know whether it did or not, to be honest, because what I did was I sprayed this. I drew my circles. You can faintly see a yellow circle there, purple one there, and a green one there. All this shenanigans down here. And then I sprayed it with water, much too much. Not to be beaten, the following day I had another go. I did the same thing. I might have added a bit more colour in. I think I probably did. But I sprayed it a lot less. I will come back to both of those and revisit them with some stitching at another time. Next thing I played with was extra warp threads. You can see, there we go. You can see here where these threads have tufty ends, top and bottom. If you want to see how that's done, you can go back and find the relevant day on my grid. It's probably somewhere in the 40s, maybe early 50s. No, 40s, I think. And I enjoyed that, and I had those 3 stripes, so I wanted to echo them in the weft as well, so I popped some of those in. Carried on, changed the spacing, just made 1 stripe, but this time there's still 4 threads, but they're very close. And similarly, I did a little bit more, spaced them differently, still 4 threads, but spaced differently. Then I got the Inktense blocks out again. My aim here was to try and replicate this green, because I wanted to create a colour and weave effect, which would be where you have a striped yarn, you've put a striped yarn on your loom in the first place, and then you do various weave patterns to achieve various different check and stripe patterns. Obviously I can do that in the standard way, but I wanted to try and do it messing around a little bit with the Inktense blocks. So I painted just half the weft. Warp. See, I did it again. I painted the warp, not the weft. I painted half the warp in stripes, every 4 threads, and then the 4 white threads were shielded, and so on as I went across. You can go back and find that on the grid again to see how I did it if you're interested. I'm saying go back on the grid, you see, and this is going on YouTube, isn't it? I will put my Instagram link below, and that's what I mean when I keep saying you can find it on my grid. You can go and find it on the Instagram. So I just tried different things in the weft. I think there I've put this dark green in the weft. Then it is the same warp thread in the weft. Then it's back to that dark green. Then I've been messing around with other colours with the caramel. The weave structure is still Hopsack. I do love Hopsack. Then I carried on, and then the following day I thought I would have another go. I'd learnt from what I did the day before. And I thought I'd have another go at matching this green. And I have to say, I think I was quite successful at that. I was pleased with how that came out. So that was good. And then, we go back to twill. I wanted to try some random stuff. I have said before, and it's quite obvious from quite a lot of the work I do, that I do like symmetry and I do like things to be neat and tidy. I decided to play with random. So I had 2 die. I had a 6-sided die, 2 dice, a 6-sided die and an 8-sided die. The 6-sided die selected the colour. I had 6 colours: grey, caramel, ecru, black, green, and pale grey. So there was 2 greys. So there's a pale grey and a variegated grey. So there were 6 colours. So that one die, the 6-sided die, chose the colour. And then there was an 8-sided die, which picked how many picks I would weave on that. And it took me all the way to get up to here before I got just one little stripe of the green, my favourite one of these yarns. And I was chuntering. And then we kept going, and then eventually I did get some more green as I got to the top, so I was happy with that. So that was that day. The following day, more random work, this time just the colours. Each of these picks are 7, each of these stripes are 7 picks long, and they show a reversing twill, which gives a herringbone pattern. So that's what I did there. Just wanted to try the similar kind of thing, but with a more regular stripe, because I wanted to see how this zigzaggy herringbone pattern worked. And for that, I would obviously need the stripes to be the same width as each other. Yep, so I carried on doing that. Then I wanted, the following day, I think, the same herringbone pattern. And this time I had that standard warp yarn in the weft as well, along with this very fine cashmere and silk. So I had it in 2 colours. I had it in a caramel and a black. Just wanted to see how that would look, and I quite like the way that goes. All of this up to here has been a 2-2 twill, which means 2 warp threads up and 2 down each time. So the fabric you get is the same back and front, because but the 2 up, 2 down lifting pattern shifts on by 1 each time you change with each new weft thread. Gosh, that was garbled. But it means you get these diagonal lines that you've been seeing here, because your warp pattern is shifting along. Well, your weaving pattern is shifting along 1 each time. Here, it's a 1-3 twill. That means there's only 1 warp thread lifted in every 4. So you see more of the weft thread. What that means, though, is if you look at the back, it's different. The back, you see the reverse. Oops, got my bobbin tangled, which I quite like too. It gives a much more textured looking surface, especially on this, with this fabric, which is quite thick and quite sturdy. So there we are. We've come to the end of that particular piece of weaving. The piece of weaving that's on the loom now is very bizarre. It was done with a random threading. If you are curious, go over to Instagram and have a look to see what I've done there. I think it's probably on something like day 58. I'm not quite sure how much longer I'm going to do that. I might just call that experiment done and move on and do something different. So that's where we're at. Thank you very much for watching.